Have you ever wondered how many everyday objects hide a dark past? Things you touch, wear, or see every single day without realizing they were born from disasters, curses, accidents, or even death. Today, we're diving into the unsettling history behind items you use constantly. And trust me, after this video, you'll never look at them the same way again. Let's begin. The innocent pencil. We start with something simple, a pencil. Today it's a harmless tool, but its history is soaked in paranoia, violence, and obsession. The first modern pencils used lead, and people believed lead had magical properties. Ancient alchemists used it in rituals, trying to turn it into gold. They drew strange symbols, circles, and marks on bodies, hoping to summon spirits. But the real horror came later. During the 18th century, workers in pencil factories breathed in lead dust. They became sick, violent, confused. Some even went mad. The condition became known as lead madness. People would scribble on the walls, carve symbols into tables, and wander the streets muttering nonsense, all because of the pencils they made. So next time you sharpen a pencil, remember, it was once considered a tool of curses, alchemy, and insanity. The alarm clock. Every morning you wake up to that annoying beep. But the alarm clock has a terrifying origin. Before clocks, people hired a person called a knocker-upper. Their job? They walked the streets tapping on windows at dawn to wake workers. But some didn't just knock. They would peek inside windows, watch people sleep, or enter homes if the tapping didn't work. Victorians feared them. They believed some knocker-uppers delivered bad luck or death to those they woke. When the first mechanical alarm clock was invented in 1787, people called it the devil's ringer. They believed only demons should decide when a soul wakes. So next time your alarm rings, just remember, you're using a device once feared as a tool of demons. The mirror. You check the mirror every day, but mirrors have always been connected to death. Ancient cultures believed mirrors could steal your soul. During funerals, families covered every mirror in the house so the spirit wouldn't get trapped inside. But here's the darkest part. When modern mirrors were invented in the 1800s, the silver used to make them contain toxins. People who polished them worked in tiny airless rooms. They developed tremors, hallucinations, and strange behavior. People said the workers were haunted by reflections. Some swore they saw faces behind them, or shadows moving on the glass. Many believed the mirrors were cursed, capable of showing the dead, not just the living. So the next time you look into a mirror, ask yourself, is something else looking back? The umbrella. Ah yes, the harmless umbrella. But in the 1700s, opening one indoors wasn't just bad luck. It was deadly. Early umbrellas used sharp metal spokes, and the opening mechanism was extremely violent. People lost eyes, children were injured, and houses with low ceilings saw accidents constantly. But the superstition grew darker. Some believed the umbrella acted as a shield against spirits. Opening it indoors meant you were challenging the spirits already inside the home, or inviting bad ones in. In one famous case in London, 1783, a man opened an umbrella at home during a storm. Later that night, lightning struck the house. People claimed the umbrella attracted evil energy. Fact? Coincidence? No one truly knows. Headphones. You probably wear them every day. But headphones were not created for music. They were invented for the military, to listen for distant engine sounds and detect enemies. The earliest versions were so loud they caused permanent hearing loss. But it gets worse. During World War II, interrogators used experimental headphones to play looping frequencies that could cause sleep deprivation, vertigo, and mental breakdowns. After the war, the technology was adapted for civilian entertainment. Yes, your headphones are descendants of a device once used to torture prisoners. Kind of makes that music playlist feel different, doesn't it? The teddy bear, a cute teddy bear. Nothing scary, right? Well, the teddy bear was inspired by a real event in 1902 when President Theodore Roosevelt refused to kill a captured bear. People loved the story and created the teddy bear. But early teddy bears were not cute. They were realistic, lifeless, and made from animal skins. Children often hated them. Worse, factories making them were unsanitary. Rats chewed on them. They carried diseases. Doctors warned parents not to buy them. Some teddy bears were linked to outbreaks of infections. And get this, in some countries, children believed teddy bears moved on their own at night and watched them sleep. Creepy, but not as creepy as the final item. The light switch, you flip it without thinking, but early electric light switches in the 1890s were terrifying. Electricity was new, mysterious, unpredictable. People believed flipping the switch would release trapped lightning. There are newspapers describing switches exploding, burning houses, and even killing people who touched them with wet hands. Some families refused to install light switches at all. They thought electricity was the fire of the gods and should not be controlled by humans. Today, it's just a click, but in the past, that click was a gamble with death. The toothbrush. The toothbrush seems innocent, a tool you use every single morning, half asleep, thinking about nothing. But the origins of the toothbrush are far darker than anyone expects. In the 1700s and 1800s, toothbrush handles were commonly made from the bones of executed criminals. Why? Because prisons sold the bodies of the hanged to factories. It was cheap and bones were strong. Everyday people unknowingly brushed their teeth with the remains of thieves, killers, and prisoners. Worse still, the bristles were made from hog hair, ripped directly from pigs that were slaughtered. Factories didn't sanitize them properly. They stank. They carried diseases. Workers often got sick from handling them. People back then had a terrifying belief. If you brushed too hard, you might awaken the animal spirit trapped in the bristles. Children would melt down sobbing when their parents forced them to brush with them. Some people even claimed the toothbrushes whispered at night. Just imagine that. Brushing your teeth with a dead man's bones and a pig's hair every morning. The blanket. You think a blanket keeps you warm. Ancient people thought it kept you alive. For thousands of years, cultures believed that when you sleep, your soul leaves your body. And if your chest or stomach was exposed, creatures of the night could steal it. Blankets became a defense against demons. Some tribes believed that the shadow eater, a dark spirit with long fingers, wandered at night searching for exposed skin. Those who slept without blankets were found dead without marks, just gone. This created a worldwide superstition: cover your body at night, or risk being visited by something hungry. Even today, people say, if your foot sticks out of the blanket, something might grab it. You still pull your legs in sometimes, don't you? The fear never left. The refrigerator. The modern refrigerator is safe, but the first ones, they were death traps. Early refrigerators used methyl chloride gas, a toxic, invisible chemical. If it leaked, and it frequently did, families would die quietly in their sleep. Newspapers called them the silent murderers, death boxes. Imagine it. A family goes to bed after dinner. The fridge leaks gas overnight. By morning, neighbors find everyone gone, with no struggle, no sound. People became terrified of refrigerators. Some refused to install them. Others built cages around them. A few even said the gas carried ghost energy because victims looked peaceful, as if something soothed them before they died. Eventually, companies switched to safer chemicals, but the fear never truly disappeared. The doorbell. In the Victorian era, people believed bells were the voices of the dead. Church bells signaled a soul entering heaven. House bells? They were believed to signal a spirit entering your home. When the first electric doorbells were installed, people panicked. A bell ringing on its own, without someone touching it, terrified families. And early doorbells did ring by themselves due to wiring issues. Victorians believed this meant a soul was trying to enter. A bad omen was approaching. Someone in the house would die soon. There are documented cases where a doorbell rang at 3 a.m. and a family member died that week. Coincidence? Or something darker? To this day, some cultures don't use doorbells at night, fearing what it invites. The fork. Before forks were common, people ate with knives and hands. So when forks came from the Middle East into Europe, churches freaked out. The shape, with 2 or 3 sharp prongs, looked like a miniature demon's trident. Priests argued that using a fork was mocking God because humans were too proud to touch the food he gave. Forks were banned in some regions for over a century. People were shamed for using them. And here's the creepy part. Some believed forks stabbed the soul of the food, releasing negative energy. They claimed people who ate with forks developed nightmares, anxiety, and unholy cravings. Eventually, forks became normal, but the fear behind them lasted for generations. The chair. Chairs seem harmless, but in the 1700s and 1800s, wooden chairs were cursed objects in some villages. Why? Because executioners used chairs to restrain criminals before hanging them. These death chairs were sold cheaply after executions. People bought them without knowing. Those who sat on them often died weeks later due to infections from dried blood in the wood. But villagers believed the chairs were cursed by the souls of the executed. In England, there's a famous cursed chair, the Busby stoop chair. Anyone who sat on it supposedly died shortly after. It became so feared that a pub hung it from the ceiling so no one could touch it again. To this day, it is forbidden to be sat on. Wallpaper. Victorian houses loved green wallpaper, bright, beautiful, emerald green, but the pigment was made with arsenic. When moisture hit the walls, tiny particles of arsenic drifted into the air. Families got sick, children died. Doctors had no idea why. Some believed the walls were haunted. Others thought the wallpaper released death at night. People ripped wallpaper off their walls in panic. Some burned their entire homes to escape the poison ghosts. This is one of the realest, deadliest household objects in history. The clock. Clocks measure time, but time has always been connected to death. In many cultures, a clock that stops on its own is a death omen. A ticking clock at night was believed to mimic the heartbeat of a spirit nearby. When mechanical clocks were first used, they often stopped at midnight due to temperature drops. People freaked out. Families believed a ghost was passing through. A loved one was dying. A death would occur soon. Stories say that when a clock stopped ticking, the spirit of the home paused to warn its inhabitants. Even today, some people remove clocks from rooms with dead bodies. The superstition lives on. Candles. Before electricity, candles were the only source of light, and people believed fire was alive. If a candle flickered when someone walked into the room, it was seen as a sign that a spirit followed them. If the flame burned blue, it meant a ghost was nearby. Candles were used in witch hunts, seances, and rituals. People said the flame whispered names of those about to die. The most terrifying belief came from Europe. A candle made from the fat of the dead could reveal hidden treasure or summon demons. These were called corpse candles. Imagine lighting a candle today, knowing its history. The elevator. Elevators are so normal today that you barely think when you step inside. But the first elevators were terrifying metal boxes controlled by ropes, gears, and pure hope. In the late 1800s, early elevators were called hanging rooms. Why? Because they were literally suspended by a single rope. One rope, one mistake, and the entire cabin dropped straight down the shaft. People heard stories of elevators snapping and crashing into basements, leaving passengers crushed instantly. Newspapers described victims as flattened beyond recognition. Families refused to use elevators. Some believed elevator shafts were mouths of iron beasts that swallowed people. There was even a superstition. If you hear a second voice in the elevator and you're alone, don't look around. Elevators became associated with spirits because many shafts echoed with strange whispers, usually wind. But people didn't know that. The fear lasted decades. Even today, some people feel uneasy when the doors close, especially if the lights flicker. The spoon. The spoon might be the oldest eating tool in the world, but its meaning goes far beyond food. In many ancient cultures, the spoon was believed to be linked to the soul. If a spoon fell from a table, people believed a spirit had passed by. If a spoon broke, it meant a death was coming soon. But the darkest story comes from Eastern Europe. People believed demons lurked around sleeping humans, waiting to steal their breath. To protect themselves, they placed a spoon under their pillow. If the spoon bent overnight, it meant a demon tried to suffocate them. But here's where it gets worse. Some villages believed spoons could feed the dead. During funerals, spoons were placed next to the body to help it eat in the afterlife. To this day, some cultures never leave spoons facing upward. It's believed they attract wandering spirits looking for a meal or a host. The bed. Your bed is supposed to be safe, but historically, it was the most dangerous place in the house. Before modern mattresses, beds were filled with insects, mold, animal hair, rotten straw. People inhaled spores and dust all night. They hallucinated, screamed, and woke up with marks on their bodies. Before science understood mold, people blamed the supernatural. They believed night demons sat on the chest, witches drained the energy of sleeper spirits, visited them at 3 a.m. This led to the legend of sleep paralysis, known back then as the old hag. People said a ghostly woman sat on their chest, unable to move or breathe. Beds were seen as gateways to the dream world, vulnerable, exposed. Some families even slept sitting up to avoid the night visitor. The fear survives today whenever someone wakes up unable to move, feeling a presence in the room. The phone. You think your phone connects you to people, but early phones connected people to something else. When telephones first appeared, they all shared lines. This caused strange static, echoes, and cross-connections. People heard crying whispers, conversations of strangers' voices saying their names. The phenomenon became known as the ghost line effect. Newspapers reported callers hearing the voices of dead family members. Some fainted. Some refused to use telephones ever again. One chilling story: a man in New England answered a phone call. The voice said, "Don't go outside." Minutes later, lightning struck the exact spot he was about to walk into. After that, communities believed phones could carry messages, not just from people, but from beyond. Even today, phantom vibrations and ghost calls creep people out. The keyboard. Early typewriters often jammed. When two letters collided, they overlapped, forming eerie shapes, almost like ghost writing. Writers believed, a dead writer is trying to speak through my hands. Some authors refused to type at night, saying they felt someone else pressing the keys. Typewriter repairers insisted the machines sometimes typed by themselves due to mechanical slips. But witnesses claimed they saw the keys moving when no one touched them. With modern keyboards, the superstition continued. Some say, if your keyboard types random letters, a spirit is nearby if a key breaks without reason. Someone is thinking of you if it double types. Something wants attention. Keyboards became symbols of hidden messages, some from the living, some possibly not. The window. Windows are portals, thin barriers between safety and the unknown. Before glass was perfected, old windows distorted reflections at night. People stared into them and saw shapes behind them, faces that weren't theirs, shadows moving on the other side. People believed windows were openings for ghosts to enter the home. That's why many cultures closed their curtains at dusk. Victorians said, "Never look out a window at night. You don't know what's looking back." Some windows emitted high-pitched sounds from wind pressure. People believed the house was whispering. To this day, many people feel uneasy looking at their reflection in a dark window. The comb. In ancient China and Japan, combs were used in rituals to communicate with spirits. Combing your hair at night was believed to summon the dead. If a comb broke while brushing, it meant someone close to you was in danger. Bad spirits were nearby. Some cultures believed combing at midnight opened spiritual doors. Parents warned children, "Don't comb your hair after dark, or something will come." Combs found in graves showed that they were believed to protect the dead from evil. Some were carved with symbols to ward off demons or trap them. Imagine brushing your hair knowing the tool was once used to call ghosts. The lamp. Before electricity, lamps used animal fat or oil. They smelled awful. They burned unevenly. A flickering lamp flame was believed to be a spirit passing by. If a lamp went out suddenly, people said a demon had blown it out, or worse, that a soul had left the body. Victorians observed strange shapes moving in the shadows created by lamps. They believed the flame revealed things we weren't supposed to see. Early oil lamps also exploded. Entire families died in fires started by lamps tipping over. This reinforced the belief. Lamps contain trapped spirits. Sometimes they escape. Even today, some cultures avoid blowing out candles, believing it offends spirits. The fan. In Japan, Korea, and parts of China, there's a terrifying belief. Sleeping with a fan on can kill you. People call it fan death. Before electric fans were properly designed, early fans created strong pressure drops in small rooms. This caused fainting, hypoxia, or even heart failure. Doctors couldn't explain it at the time, so people turned to superstition. They believed fans sucked out your soul while you slept, or that the blades created spirit wind that attracted demons. Some elders still refuse to sleep with a fan on. Even today, the superstition continues so strongly that some fans sold in Korea have timers to prevent accidental death. The shower. You stand in the shower, eyes closed, warm water on your face, completely vulnerable. But showers were never meant to feel safe. In ancient Rome, baths were rumored to be places where the dead walked with the steam. People believed that water carried spirits and that steam allowed them to appear. Old bathhouses were dimly lit, and people swore they saw silhouettes walking behind them through the mist. Fast forward to modern showers. Early plumbing systems made strange groaning noises, echoes inside the pipes, and sudden temperature changes. People thought someone else was in the room. A hand touched their back, a voice whispered behind the curtain. There are real documented cases where people slipped, hit their heads, and drowned silently with the water running, leading others to believe something held them down. And the worst part, showers create blind spots. You can't see behind you. You can't hear footsteps over the water. And sometimes you feel watched. Keys. Keys unlock doors, but they were once believed to unlock the spirit world. In old folklore, iron was a material that repelled ghosts and demons. So carrying keys meant protection, but it also meant responsibility. People believed that keys absorbed the energy of everything they opened, every room, every drawer, every secret. A key that opened a place where someone died, it became marked. Victorians refused to reuse keys from old houses because they believed the key remembered the death. One story tells of a man who bought a used key from a flea market. That night, he heard metal scratching at his door, but the outside was empty. Keys were said to move on their own. to jingle when no one was nearby. Some cultures still never place keys on a table, believing it summons misfortune. Television. The television became the center of every home, but no one realized how terrifying its origins were. Before TVs displayed clean digital images, early televisions used electron beams to paint moving shapes on glass. Because of this, people swore that sometimes the TV showed things that weren't broadcasted. Families in the 1950s reported shadows walking across the screen, faces appearing in the static the TV turning on by itself, voices speaking in languages no one recognized. Static itself became feared. Scientists revealed that television static is partially made of cosmic radiation, left over from the beginning of the universe, the Big Bang. People said, when you watch static, you're watching the universe remember creation. But others believed static was a veil, a thin layer separating our world from something behind the screen. Poltergeist activity was frequently reported near old televisions. Objects moved, lights flickered, pets growled at blank screens. Some believed televisions were portals, that something could look back at you through the static. Even now, imagine turning off your TV and seeing a faint reflection of a face that isn't yours. Clothing. Clothes aren't just fabric, they're history. In ancient cultures, people believed that clothing absorbed energy, fear, joy, sorrow, and that the energy stayed in the fabric. This brought a terrifying superstition. Wearing someone's clothes meant wearing their fate. People refused to wear clothing from the sick, the dead, the heartbroken, the cursed. But during plagues, clothes from dead victims were often stolen and resold. People who wore them fell sick, leading many to believe the fabric carried the shadow of death. Even today, thrift store workers report strange occurrences: cold spots, sudden nausea items, moving mannequins changing position overnight. Some refuse to process clothes from estate sales, saying they feel heavy or charged. One old belief says, clothes remember the last emotion felt while worn. Imagine wearing a jacket someone died in. You'd never know. Books. Books feel safe, comforting, but they carry something that never leaves. Books absorb energy, smell, and memories from every hand that touches them. In ancient times, paper was made from animal skin, crushed bones, plant material that symbolized death. People believed books could trap spirits, especially when used in rituals. Some books were sealed because reading them was said to invite the dead. Libraries were considered sacred and haunted. Many librarians claim books fall on their own pages, flip without wind, footsteps echo in empty aisles, whispers are heard between shelves. One superstition says, if a book falls from a shelf, someone the reader knows is in danger. Books aren't just stories. They're containers for human emotion and something more. The washing machine. Washing machines weren't always safe. Early machines were massive metal drums with unpredictable spinning. People stuck their hands inside and never pulled them out again. Families reported losing pets to early washers. The machines turned on by themselves, even unplugged. This caused a disturbing superstition. Never open a washer mid-cycle. Something might be inside. People claimed to see faces in the spinning window, reflections that didn't match their own. Sudden banging inside an empty washer is still reported today. What causes the sound? Mechanical relaxation, or something trying to get out? The vacuum cleaner. When vacuum cleaners were invented, people were terrified. The idea of a machine sucking air and anything in its path felt monstrous. Some believed vacuums could pull in spirits, disturb the dead-eat energy. From a room, early vacuums made deep, growling noises. Pets fled in terror. People swore they heard voices inside the motor. One legend says, never vacuum at night. It wakes the unseen. To this day, some cultures avoid cleaning after midnight because the sound attracts attention. But from whom? And now, After hearing the dark histories behind so many simple things, you might feel something strange, because the truth is unsettling. Nothing in your home is as innocent as it seems. Every object carries memories, stories, echoes of the past. A toothbrush made of bones, a mirror that once trapped souls, a clock that ticks with the breath of spirits, a fan that steals the air from sleeping lungs, a television that stares back through the static. You touch these things every single day, without thinking, without knowing. But now you know. You know that these familiar objects have been feared, avoided, cursed, and whispered about for centuries. And maybe tonight, when you turn off the lights, you'll notice something you never saw before, a shadow that wasn't there yesterday, a reflection that lingers a little too long, a small sound coming from the hallway that you can't quite place, and you'll remember. Every object has a history. Every history has a spirit, and some spirits never left. So when you brush your teeth, when you close your bedroom door, when you look at the dark window, or hear the gentle hum of the fan, ask yourself, is it just an object, or is it something alive? Thank you for watching. If you want more dark truths hidden in everyday life, you already know where to find me. And until then, keep your lights on, and don't trust the things around you too much. They might be watching back.